Hi guys. Hello, hello. How you doing? I am Danielle from Amityville Apothecary, and I am going to be hosting an author talk tonight with Sandy Citron. Oh, hi Sandy. Okay, so just send a request to join. Perfect. And then we will give people a chance to join. Hi, Grandma. Hi, everybody. Oh, I'm so glad that you're all on. Hi.
Hey Danielle.
Hi, Sandy. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Great. I'm so glad that you had no complications joining the
I know,
live.
me
That's great.
too. I haven't done this for a long time, so I did not know if it would work.
Perfect. Here we
Yeah,
are. Here we
yeah.
are. I am so glad that you were able to join. I've been a fan of your books, and I've been spending some time with the deck now that we're going to
Oh,
be talking
cool.
tonight. I think it's really
Yay.
cool. So I'm glad we get an opportunity to introduce it to our users and to, have a live conversation. So if you come to New York, definitely come and pay a visit to Amityville Apothecary.
I will absolutely. I'm sorry I have not been there before. I used to live in New York for almost 20 years, and now I live in Minnesota, so quite far away, but I will definitely try to come.
Very cool. So
Yay.
it's funny, during my first job, I used to work in advertising sales. And after I was going to go through the training program, they could have placed me anywhere. And Minnesota was one that was a market that I almost chose.
Wow. Wow. A fork in the road.
Yeah. I was like, I'm going to stay in New York.
Nice. Excellent.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, thanks for having me here. I'm really excited to get to meet you and get to share with everyone. So excited to see all the names. Really cool. Hi, everybody.
Great, great. So for the
Yeah.
sake of this live discussion, I am a co-owner of Amityville Apothecary. So Dina is my co-owner, and we're based in Long Island. So Long Island, New York, but we have an audience all around the world and all over the country. So Sandy is a gifted author and astrologer, and also a hypnotist, which I want to talk to you more about during this discussion. I see that you were raised in Wisconsin, and now
Yes.
you live in Minnesota.
Yeah.
Very cool. Um, and she is the author of this whole series of astrology books, and it's Crystals and Astrology, which are really great. And we'll talk about this whole series. Of course, I pulled my top
Nice.
three. So, yeah, so I'm a Libra sun,
Nice.
Sag rising, Leo moon.
I'm a Libra sun, Sag rising, Libra
How about
moon.
that?
That's funny.
That's
Here
very
we
cool.
are.
And then
Yeah.
and then Dina and I actually have the same exact birthday. We were born on the same day.
What?
Yeah.
When's your birthday? Happy birthday.
Happy birthday to
Thank
you.
you.
September 30th.
Oh my God. Great.
Mhm.
Great. So
Yes.
cool.
I'm
Yeah.
about just shy of 2 hours older than Dina.
Wow.
So yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah. So she's a
Same year?
Capricorn. Same year, same day.
Whoa.
And almost the same location. Like I was born in Huntington, Long Island, which is on the North Shore, and she was born in Queens, which is less
That
than an hour away.
is wild. That must be
Yeah,
really cool
it is.
to work with someone who's your twin.
It's really wild. So
Yeah.
I'm a Sag rising, and she's a Capricorn rising, and there's very significant differences, but very complementary, obviously. So
Yes.
I have
Amazing.
no doubt we're soul sisters. And then for those of you on the call, this is her brand new deck. It's an astrology-based oracle deck, or astrology deck for daily guidance. So we'll talk about this and how it can be used for insight as a tool. It's very, very well done. It's very interesting. Um,
Cool.
so when this is now officially launched,
Yeah.
brand new.
Yes. Today.
Congratulations.
Today. Yeah.
So
Hi,
awesome.
Shoshi.
So
Yeah.
tell me a little bit about yourself. And I know from what I read in your bio, but you got started with astrology at a young age.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit
Yeah.
about
I
that.
started learning about astrology from a family member when I was, a kid. And so I just soaked it up, you know? So when I talk to people about astrology, I often, you know, share that for me, it's like a faith, you know, it's just something that I grew up with kind of that I just, it's like the air I breathe, you know?
Yeah.
So I didn't really tell a lot of people about it. My friend Shoshi is here, and she and I have been friends since we were 14.
Cool.
And so she knew about it and we would talk, you know, close friends. But it was like, you know, just a part of how I thought about everything. But astrology wasn't popular. You
Yeah.
know, like people weren't, I'm old, everyone. No, I'm not old.
I'm
Yeah.
probably older than you.
So as a child of now, so
Yeah.
but I was always talking to friends, sharing, looking at my charts, learning, and I started doing readings one-on-one at the prompting of my friends. It kind of was it became necessary that I do it almost because people wanted me to do it, and it was like great. It was like an incredible way to connect with people, and as a Libra, I really care about those one-on-one connections. And so getting the chance to work with someone one-on-one using this incredible tool of astrology, you know, and using it in an intuitive way, but also with like the nuts and bolts of what it is a really special dynamic that I really enjoy. Um, yeah, and so that's kind of a little bit about how I got into it, I guess. I'm self-taught. So I had that foundation as a kid and then have taught myself.
That's
Yeah.
awesome. So I'm also old. I'll share that I just turned 48. Um, so growing up, I also loved astrology from a very young age, and it was not popular to your point. But I always thought it was just so fascinating because it does serve as the blueprint of your soul. And I saw that one of your quotes was, you know, you enjoy help using the insights gleaned from astrology to help people find their true north. And it's so funny because I actually have that as my true north.
Oh, that's really
So
cool.
I think we have a
Wow.
lot of similarities in that regard because there's so much that you can learn once you understand all of the different planets and the personality types that they have with each zodiac sign associated, and then the mathematical relationships so that you can look into what's your life's path, what are your strengths, what are your weaknesses, um, how do we work with that energy? And I think your book does a great job, even though it's a small, concise book. When you're a Libra, for the folks on the audience right now, when you're a Libra or whatever your sign is, it talks about how you can work with different crystals, and we'll get into the crystal side about it. But traits about your sign, personality traits about your sign, um, some potential challenges, so strengths or weaknesses, so how you can work with that for because we always have free will, right? And what I really like about this is your sign as it journeys through the year. So as it travels through each zodiac season, what that means to you. So crystals that you could work with, some challenges, what you might be experiencing or what you should focus on, as well as working with the lunar cycles, which I thought was very clever and how you did that too.
Cool. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. My favorite thing about one of my favorite things about these books is that oftentimes when you're getting like a crystal recommendation for your sign, it's a little unclear if the crystal is supposed to help like amplify the gifts of your sign or kind of like help you deal with some of the challenges of your sign. I noticed when I was doing my research that there were some signs that just everyone wanted to say, you know, oh, well, here's how you could help yourself, Virgos or whoever, you know, and then there were other signs that were like, oh, you're so great already. Here, just expand upon that. And so, one thing that I love in the book is I worked to find a crystal that would kind of amplify the gifts of each sign and a crystal that would help you work with some of the challenges of each sign. So, two different crystals.
Right.
I really love that.
And you didn't choose obvious, you know, stereotypical crystals. They're very thoughtful and supportive as to like why you made the recommendation, as well as crystal recommendations for, okay, if you're a Libra and you want to work with a crystal for, like, for example, with work, I think you said work with ametrine.
Yeah.
Or if you want to work with something for your health, or you want to work for something with insight. So it was neat. How did you go into pairing that stuff?
Yeah, it was a lot of work.
Yeah.
Well, because there's so many
Yeah.
crystals. There are in each book, I think there's like at least 50 crystals. So it was a mix of like looking at I was selecting crystals only from like for each sign, I was selecting only from like a small family of crystals with the planetary pairing. So usually like the planetary ruler of that sign, and I look and research. So kind of starting with a small pool and then intuitively selecting from those crystals that were associated with the planet of rulership of the sign. So partly intuition, partly some of them are more obvious than others for me. Like, oh, of course, it's got to be this. But
Right.
trying to feel into like, what does that sign need? And how, like what does a Cancer sun sign need at work? And then what's going to really support with that
Yeah.
specific thing. So yeah, there's definitely a delicacy there. I'm more on the astrological know-how than the crystal know-how, so I had
Right.
to really beef up my knowledge. And I got a lot of help from Julie, who owns Moonrise Crystals, that's based in Hawaii, and she was helpful because she's incredible and she does some great stuff. So I
Awesome.
had some support. Yeah.
I love that. No, I love that because Dina and I, when we started Amityville Apothecary about 5 years ago, one thing that's really important to us in how we were developing and evolving the shop is it's all about different layers and correspondences, but also it's a story of metaphysics. So we have crystals, we have oils, we have candles, we work with astrology, we work with tarot, we work with oracle cards, angel cards, pendulums, sound bowl healing, Reiki mass, like Reiki healing, you name it. It's just every practitioner has their own things that they gravitate towards more naturally. Some practitioners identify as a witch. Some people identify more towards like nature and shamanism. So that's another shared thing. Like I used to climb trees and spend hours in nature as a child and look at the stars, and like that was my thing. Whereas others would be like working on spells. So I love that that you've kind of aggregated all different aspects into the book in a very concise way. But we always have free will, and there's always choices, and there's always options. So there's no one right or wrong way to go about approaching anything. It's just suggestions and tools that you can all leverage. The more you understand, the bigger your toolbox is, right?
Yeah. I think that's very well said. That's, a big thing I always tell clients when we start a one-on-one session is that like there are some people, some astrologers who are more on the fate side of things, and then there are some astrologers who are more on the free will side of things. Personally, I'm more on that free will side of things where it's like, let's talk about the tools and kind of think about this as, a lot of times with astrology, it's like, here's the current energy that you're working with, go do whatever you want.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us nowadays are looking to, we already know who we are. In a lot of ways, we're looking for different types of support.
Yeah. And I always like to say, like, especially with astrology, there's certain indicators and times. So I'd like you to talk about eclipses because we're coming up on eclipse season. So definitely, I'd like for you to talk to our people about like why that matters and why it's significant. But everybody can make choices, right? There's an easier way or a more difficult way, or like a hypothetical, like in accordance with your higher self versus maybe a lower vibrational choice that might be a little more ego driven, that might not be the best optimal choice in terms of transparency. So you always have the choice that like if you're going to steal something from a store, that stealing isn't necessarily the right thing, but like will karma catch up to you? May it be a little bit more difficult path? Is that, are there consequences? Maybe there's going to be experiences as a result of your choices and actions. So like, yes, you're always going to have a highest and greatest good, but then you can always make choices that like maybe might not be like, I don't know, maybe you're just saying, I'm going to live a little and like take a risk. So it's in the charts, but you always can make decisions. So either way, you're going to learn a lesson, a life lesson as a result of your choices.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes when we're looking at a transit, if a client has like a specific question, should I move? Should I invest in my business? It's like what we can do with looking at the transits is be like, okay, here's the energy. if you do this, if you invest in your business, a lot of like old feelings are going to come up from childhood, and you're going to be like, okay, I've got to do a lot of healing and look at myself. If you don't invest in your business, a lot of old feelings are going to come up from childhood, and you're going to be looking at yourself, like,
Yeah.
so yeah, you can kind of imagine which way that path might take you, and like imagine the specifics of it. And it's kind of general, but it's also kind of specific in a way. So you can start to see, okay, this is the energy. Do I want to have this responsibility when I'm experiencing this energy or not? Is it going to help me?
I love that. So what I think is so cool about how you put together this deck, because it's really neat. We sell it at the shop. We sell all the books at the shop too. The books are $11.99 and they're live on the site. The deck is $16.99 and it's called What's in Your Stars, an astrology deck for daily guidance. It's really cute. So I like how each of the cards have the indicators of the sign, but then there's these 4 different aspects. It's spirit, material, wisdom, and emotion. You want to talk about that?
Yeah. I love this part of the deck. It's my favorite thing. So each sign of the zodiac gets these 4 cards. So usually in an astrology deck, you're going to get 1 card for each sign and then a lot of other things. But I wanted to really follow like the tarot structure and use suits.
Yeah.
So these are the suits: spirit, material, wisdom, and emotion. And so each card, like the really fun part, oh my God, the most exciting thing I've ever done. Like this deck is my favorite thing ever. So it's probably my favorite thing I've ever made for sure.
It's cool.
But yeah, it's really cool. So each sign I got to like look and be like, okay, what is the spirit of this sign? If this sign had a wisdom, if it had a spirit, if it just was kind of like shooting out rays of inspiration at us, what would that be? And of course, like this is my own interpretation. I'm sure that if each of us had our time to do this, we'd all come up with our own fun interpretations, and I welcome all of that. This is my own specific feeling of it. But yeah, so then we got to look at the spirit. I got to look at the material of it. So for me, that was like when this sign hits planet Earth and it's trying to do things on Earth, like real practical things with materials, like what is the message there? Like what comes out of that? The wisdom card, kind of obvious, what's the wisdom of this sign? Like, what does the sign really want to teach us? And then the emotion is an interesting one and also super delightful for me to think about, because a lot of times we'll think about if you know a lot about the zodiac signs, you're thinking about sometimes you're thinking about what emotions do these signs represent? And so one obvious one is that Aries can represent anger. But what's cool is that every sign has these kind of flip sides of the coin where there's maybe, with emotions, I personally think all emotions are positive. It's how we're able to work with them and express them. We don't want to stifle our anger, but we don't also want to put it on someone else, and use it as a weapon. But I did kind of pull out maybe a more challenging emotion and maybe a more easier flowing emotion. So what was the Aries one? It's
energy or anger.
Okay, yeah. So it's energy is not quite an emotion, but we're kind of maybe it is.
Cancer, you have nurture. I think that's perfectly appropriate.
Yeah, that's for the wisdom. Yeah.
For the wisdom one.
Yeah, yeah. So it was really cool with the emotion. You're kind of playing with 2 different ones, and when you pull the card,
appreciation or sadness.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So when you pull that card in a reading, there's a lot of different ways you could think about that. Maybe it's is this emotion somewhere within me and I haven't noticed it? Or is there an arc to this? Right now I'm in this emotion, but I'm going toward that emotion? Or is this emotion kind of a factor in the environment or in the question? So pretty cool. Yeah.
And then I also like how you incorporated these here, especially if somebody's new to learning astrology, these cards all represent the different planets and asteroids. So you included Chiron. So the ascendant is your identity. It's the mask that you first present, right?
Yeah.
But then Chiron is healing. So for people that are new to working with astrology, I think this is a great tool to learn what each of these are all representative of.
Yeah.
And like working with Mercury, which rules your mindset, or the moon, which rules your emotions. So talk a little bit about how should somebody interact with this deck and
Yeah.
work with this deck?
Yeah, I mean, there are so many different ways that you could. I use them in a ton of different, I use the deck in a ton of different ways, just all the time. I've been using it. There's a really lovely booklet that I wrote that goes with the deck. So it's like, oh, yeah. Yeah, so in the deck, I've suggested a bunch of different spreads that you could do. I just to start with what you were just talking about though, as like a tool for learning astrology, I think it's excellent for that because one of the basic things we want to do when we learn astrology is like really sink into the signs. And there's many different ways we can do that. A lot of us use memes and Instagram, to kind of learn about the signs.
Yeah.
I didn't grow up with that. That's not my style. You'll see on my Instagram, I don't do a ton of those. But like if you can sink into the feeling of the signs, sometimes we know people of those signs and we're kind of like reading about it and studying them. But you can use the 4 suits and these cards and kind of pull, every morning you could pull a card. Maybe in Libra season, you took the 4 Libra cards and every morning you pulled one of the 4.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, what, it's only 4 cards, but maybe it's like, this is a different energy for today. Let me like really soak up what Libra season means this this month. It's not a month, but this time, this season. I'm going to really get into all these 4 different aspects of it. Another way would be to, one favorite way, if you're like an astrology nerd, would be to take your chart. So your chart is, basically it's an image. Yeah, it looks like that. It's an image of the solar system from the place of and time of your birth and date. And so you could pair up so looking at each planet in your chart, if you have, your sun in Libra, like both of us do, you could take out the 4 Libra cards and pull one of the 4 for your sun for that time that you're looking at it. And then do that for each of the planets with the corresponding sign. So you're kind of doing an in the moment read of your own chart, but it's still like your chart is a static thing that doesn't change, but there's a way to kind of look at it in the moment with this deck, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And then any spread that you would do with tarot cards, you could do with this deck.
Right.
I have a couple of favorites spreads that I do, and I've been using the deck and it's been really cool.
Is this one the one?
Yeah, is that the new moon one? It's like everything's backwards, but I think I can, from the layout, I think I remember.
Working with the new moon, the first quarter moon, the full moon.
That's a really lovely one that, you could do like at the beginning of the moon cycle for that. Yeah, that would be really fun. My favorite one is let's see if it's in here. It's like the 5 card spread. I don't remember. It has a name. It's like a classic one. I don't remember what it's called, but there's a central card and then 4 cards around it.
Cool.
But I know that you wanted to talk about eclipses.
Yes, because we're in eclipse season right now. So what's the significance of eclipse?
Yes. So the way I always describe eclipses is that it's like you're sitting in a room you're looking around and you're like, there's the couch, there's the desk, there's the chair. And then someone turns the lights off and you're like in the dark and you didn't turn the lights off. Someone turned them off and you're like, what's happening? And then someone turns the lights on and all the furniture has been moved around. So very unpredictable energy, very much like a shift of some kind, where usually that's going to bring in a new impression for you, a new sense of, oh, here's what this is about, or here's what I need to do, or, oh, something actually changed. So, so there's kind of a restart type energy to it. They're very hard. I use them in prediction in my one-on-one readings. We'll always look at the eclipses. We usually look at like 8 eclipses. There's usually about 4 a year. There was a recent year, maybe within the last couple of years where there were 5, and I was like, whoa. But usually there's 4. And so it's not like a rare thing necessarily, but is really important. So we'll use that eclipse. You know, what you want to do if you know your chart is to see where each eclipse is occurring in your chart. See what house it's in. That's going to give you a lot of information about what's going on, you know.
That's interesting because it can
Yeah,
have a dramatic impact on your work or your a
exactly.
familial relationship or a romantic relationship or
Yep.
something like
Yep.
that.
Yeah, exactly. That's the
Yeah.
best thing to do. You also want to look at what planets that eclipse degree is interacting with. And what I do is I will do any of the planets in the same energy of signs. So right now the eclipses are in cardinal signs. So this eclipse is in Libra. So you want to look at any planets that you have that are within 10 degrees of that eclipse in a also in a cardinal sign, if that makes sense. So you're looking at planets in your chart for this eclipse. You're going to look at planets in your chart that are in Cancer, Capricorn, Libra, and Aries. And I think this eclipse is at 21 degrees. I talk about it all day long, but I'll pull it up. Sometimes I'll have them memorized for like weeks or years, like for the next 2 years. I'll be like, oh, that eclipse, that's going to be at this degree.
Yeah. Somebody once explained to me like a lunar eclipse. It's oftentimes something that has been hidden below the surface becomes illuminated or revealed. And I
I
thought that
love
was a
that.
really interesting way to explain it. And I definitely had some firsthand life experiences that was like a before and after. Like I didn't know that. And then in the most sudden way, I was like, wow, I can never unknow that. And it's a significant, it resulted in a significant no going back change. It's like a tower
Makes
moment,
sense.
really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, that makes a lot of sense.
So
Yeah, so we could do a little poll using
that
this
would be
deck for
great.
the eclipse.
Great. Does
So for
anybody?
everyone.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So this is, yeah, for everyone, kind of for the listeners of this video. I don't know if we could do the whole collective right now, but for people who are tuning in,
Totally. Those who are
yeah,
live with us right now.
yeah, yeah. Or, you know,
For
I'm sure we
anyone
can
that's new.
sneak in people who are listening later
Yeah.
too.
So anybody that's on right now, Sandy Citron is the author of this book series, which is Crystal Astrology for Modern Life. And there's a book for each type, each zodiac sign, and they're great books. And then What's in Your Stars is her astrology deck, which is what she's pulling from right now. She's going to pull for the collective.
Okay, so I'm doing a 3-card spread. So the central card is going to be kind of like what's this core kind of theme of this time of this eclipse, and then the card for me, it's on the left, will be what's the internal thing that's happening, or the kind of under the surface thing that's happening, as you were talking about. And this is, you know, going to be kind of broad, obviously. And then the card on the right is going to be like, what are factors that we might encounter that are in the environment that we might be like working with, or things like that. So let's see what we get. Okay, so it's interesting. So the core energy of like kind of what's really like ripe right now, what we're working with, the kind of core theme is innovation, the innovation card. So it's an Aquarius card, and it's an Aquarius wisdom card, so a fellow air sign to Libra. So I'll read the card and then I'll kind of talk about what I think. So a gate flies open. When a gate that was closed opens with no warning, one must be in the right place at the right time to step through. When new ideas emerge, open your mind to receive them, else they will recede unnoticed or unremembered. This is very eclipse-like in its essence anyway. You know, Aquarius energy can be very sudden, you know, so this is kind of just underlining that like there's a lot of new stuff coming in right now. There's a lot flying through. It might be feeling like we're kind of popping, that we're like really activated. Our minds are really activated. That's also, you know, this is a Libra solar eclipse. So there's just like a lot of like thoughtful energy anyway, a lot of thinking and processing. So with all of that thinking, processing energy, you may be getting some great ideas coming through. You might be really opening up. It might be, I'm kind of getting a feeling with this that it's happening so either in such an overwhelming way or so quickly that it's easy to forget, or it kind of like slips away too. So if you can kind of try to capture some of those good ideas that are coming through, or try to rest and kind of step back to get the ability to kind of hold all of that if you can. So the internal card, this is nice. This is a nice reading. The internal card is the Jupiter expansion card. So this is a great card to get. I don't know how much we're all feeling this, but this is a card of, you know, along with getting those innovative kind of insights, it's like, whoa, now we're kind of growing. Now we have an ability to see bigger. Always with Jupiter, we want to think about how we're connecting to our values and what we believe in, you know, so that it's like we're expanding kind of in the direction that we want to go in. The text here is, when you find and follow your truth, you take off. Your values can inspire you, and defining your unique philosophies can help you expand. Focus on your own optimism, and you may come to believe that anything is possible. So far, this is a lovely reading. A lot of new ideas. Taking that time over the eclipse, which is on Saturday, by the way, I don't think we mentioned that, to just really kind of like think about what you value, what's important to you right now, what do you believe in, and not necessarily doing anything about it at that moment, because an eclipse is kind of like a gateway moment, but just kind of soaking up, whew, okay, here's where I want to be expanding into. Maybe having some fun too. Let's just throw that in there because it's Jupiter, it's expansive. Oh wow, this is a really great reading. I don't know who's on with us right now, but you guys, wow, okay. The external card is playfulness, the Leo wisdom card.
I love that.
So yeah, all the puppies playing in a little pile of puppiness. It's a litter of puppies tumbles joyfully. So playfulness, you know, I just said, that's so funny. I just said, maybe have a little fun too, before I looked at this card. And that was just coming through. It's like, there's an opening here as you're kind of like, what do I value? Oh my God, there's so many ideas. The thing to actually do is to follow that playfulness. Play is so important. Sometimes we get so cramped and like, we get so kind of like tight, and we understand what we're responsible for, but we forget that the way through it, sometimes the experiment of it is to do something playful, and then we're experimenting, and then suddenly we're like, oh, now there's other options. So
I love that, especially since Jupiter is ruled by Sagittarius, which is all about like higher learning and expansion and like exploration and travel, and just like how can we expand our knowledge or experience. And then Leo, it's just fun and sunshine and life and love and like going big, go big or go home. So,
yeah.
This is a really cool reading. I mean,
that was, not all the cards are all that, like, you know, we got our harder cards in here too, everybody.
Listen,
don't worry if you want your
I'll take
readings.
it. Aquarian energy is very futuristic and like thinking on behalf of like I call the Aquarians like aliens, because it's fixed air, so it's like outer space, you know.
I never thought of that, like that way of thinking. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, it's, you know, so it's just maybe it's a good time to also journal about it and like think about like a brainstorm of all of your ideas of what you want to achieve and accomplish.
Totally.
Like, as you have those bursts of inspiration, like write it down.
Totally.
You know, and try to capture that so that you can work towards that, even if it's not the most immediate, you know, that inspiration will come.
I think that's a great insight, you know, knowing that this is a Libra eclipse. Libra's all about balancing it all out. And to do that, we have to kind of like get all of our ideas out there somehow, whether we're talking to a friend or writing it out for ourselves or writing out that pro and con list.
Yeah.
There's a way of like needing to weigh out information right now that I think is really important. So it's the collecting of the ideas and also kind of the processing.
Yeah, I think sometimes being a Libra sun, when I get those bursts of inspiration, I just write it all down in a stream of consciousness. And I could worry about like cleaning it up or making sense of it afterward, but at least as long as I capture it, it's just a fun exercise to get into the habit of doing. And then even to go back in the future and just be like, oh wow, like I thought about this, and now look at how much closer I am to like achieving that or having that come to life. Because I think you have to capitalize on the inspiration when it comes to you.
Yeah,
So
that's so true.
without
So
judgment,
yeah,
be playful with it
yeah,
and have fun. Like
yeah.
don't filter it with judgment. Like just write it down, think about it. Like you can, even if it's bizarre, who cares? Like, throw it out there, it doesn't matter. That's where
Totally.
the imagination comes in
Yes.
and where the magic happens.
Yes, I love that. So
Yeah,
cool.
that was pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
um does anybody on the live right now want a single card pull for themselves right now, as we have Sandy on the line? Because I'll take one if nobody else does. um, they're being a little shy. One thing that I thought was really neat before we even get into the card pull is that talk a little bit about your practice of hypnosis, because I think
Yeah.
that that's just so fascinating too. Like Dr. Brian Weiss uses hypnosis for past life regression. There's so much to be said about tapping into your subconscious. So talk a little bit about
Yeah.
that as part of your practice.
Yeah, this subconscious, as we know, is so much of what we do. I think most of us are pretty familiar at this point, and like we have access to so much information about habits and how, the subconscious works. And it's most of the things that we want to do are guided by our subconscious, because our brains are trying to conserve calories. Like that's really what it comes down to. Like we're trying to not burn a lot of calories and conscious thinking burns a lot of calories. So
Okay.
when things are on automatic, when they're not conscious, it's easier for we save energy.
Okay.
And that's great, like that's how we function for so long. Like we need that. That's really good for us. However, sometimes things get on automatic that we're like, oh, this is really dragging me down in some way.
Right.
And so how then do we work with that? Like we can't just say to ourselves like, oh, I want to change, I want to be different, I want to do this differently, because that's a different part of the mind that we
Right.
can't always force our way to something. So my feeling about hypnosis now is that we use our imaginations to imagine something different. And then through doing that, we kind of get a little map in the mind that says, like, this is a different way to do it. And through that process, that's kind of how we make a change. So hypnosis can be a lot of different things. There are people who use it in a lot of different ways, and it can be something that can feel like, oh, are you trying to control me by hypnotizing me? And like there's a lot of different parts of it, but the part that to me is most powerful is when we use it ourselves in by connecting with our imaginations. And so it's something all of us can go do tonight or tomorrow or whenever, is like, oh, I want to do this differently. Like, I wish I wasn't always, like just tired and reaching for a glass of wine at the end of the day. I wish I was like reaching for tea instead or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, why don't I imagine myself as I get to that point of the day, and so sitting there and really imagining it, like imagining it. Some people visualize things, some people have other ways of processing, but like what happens when I'm walking through my kitchen? Where am I going to go? What am I going to do physically? What am I wearing? Where's the light coming through the window? Like what am I hearing in the ambient noise of the background? What's the feeling, the emotion as I'm reaching for the teapot? Like,
Yeah.
do I want to do something else? Do I want to like charge my tea with like a relaxing feeling? So now I'm not reaching for a glass of wine to relax me. I'm reaching for this super charged up, relaxing tea. And that I can all do that in my imagination. I can see the tea shooting out like like little rainbows, and there could be like unicorns dancing on the tea, you know, like as the curly cues of the steam go, and then all of a sudden, you know, like you can go wild with it, right?
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you hypnotize yourself into not reaching for a glass of wine.
Yeah.
So it's like really simple stuff actually, and that's what I love about hypnosis is like, let's like just find a way there, you know, and a lot of that is me guiding or like kind of
Mm,
helping you do that in one way or another.
that's cool.
Um, yeah, so it's just another powerful tool that we can use anytime.
So for your services and, you know, using those types of visualization or hypnosis techniques, um, talk a little bit about how people can use astrology if it's related to implementing these growth and changes. Like say they really feel they're stuck in a dead end job and they really want to like make a change, but change is scary and like comfort is very compelling to stay in a position. So it can be a dead end job that may be stagnant or a relationship that's a little bit stale. Like talk about how we can use astrology and then these types of techniques either through booking an appointment with you or doing it on their own
Yeah.
in terms of how to use it for evolution and growth and insight.
Yeah. I love the way you ask questions. I just want to say you're really great at framing the questions. It's really nice. Yeah, so I think that like change, like to your point, most of the time when somebody's booking an appointment with me, it's because there's some change happening, right? Like that's just what we're gonna do. Because like when there's some change happening, we're kind of like pressed up against the wall. Immediately, like all of our brain chemicals start shooting because change is super scary because the brain just wants to do the same things it's already. If it does something
Yeah.
new, it's going to be like, oh my God, am I safe? You know?
Yeah.
So usually somebody's booking because there's some change going on or they want to create some change. And so what we'll look at is we'll look at like the factors that are playing into that decision. So, you know, like if it's like you use that example of like, I feel stuck in my job. It's a dead end job. I've been here and I know I want to do something different, but this is the safe choice. So then that
Right.
question would be like, how do you deal with security? That's what I would think. So that's going to be different for every astrologer too, which everyone, this is an art form, right? Like astrology, if you're doing a reading, it's like, how do you approach it? It's going to be
Yeah.
different from how I approach it. But I would approach it like, okay, let's see what's happening with security in your chart. Like, because you've chosen to stay safe versus make that change, maybe because you were scared, but maybe because you weren't even sure also what the other thing might be. You know, maybe you didn't know where you wanted to go. So
Right.
you just kept doing the same thing. So we'd want to look at like, so for security, there's going to be a couple of different things we might look at. We might look at the moon sign. We might look at any like, there might be some aspects that pop out at me that I might specifically be like, oh, wow, you have, you know, like the moon conjunct Chiron. And so there's all this old stuff that's always coming up. Or maybe, you know, you have Saturn in the second house. So you want to feel that you're very structured with money and that you're really responsible and that is like really feeding you. So once we know what the setup is there, like once we're able to talk and the person has to agree, like I'm not just, I don't know, you know, I'm just looking at
Yeah.
symbols on a chart. Like I probably have some good insights. I usually think.
Oh, I lost the sounds. Hold on, I can't hear you. Better. Yeah, repeat what you just said.
Like I'm only allowed to be on Instagram for an hour with my app, and I didn't know it would turn me off.
It's okay.
It was like, get off the app. Um, it's gonna in 15 minutes. It's gonna kick me off again, so we'll be
Okay,
done right at 8.
good.
But so yeah, so we would look, we would talk, we would discuss, and you know, and so you want to like first of all, if you're trying to do this on your own, you want to pinpoint like what's the underlying like emotional thing or the underlying issue to this decision or this change. Okay, let's see if we can figure out where to look in the chart for that. Let's brainstorm some ideas,
Right.
and then we'll talk about those things. But then, you know, like that same example is such a good one because like, well, what if that person wasn't making that change because they just didn't know what else they wanted to do? You know, so now we're going to look at some of the current transits and start to see, is there like a transit coming through where suddenly you're going to get some kind of insight, or you're going to like get maybe some luck, or you're going to get, there's going to be something moving, some new fresh air somewhere in the chart that we can look at and be like, oh, you need to decide what classes you want to take and just go take classes and have fun. I don't know, like we're making up a chart here, you know, but some insight's going to speak about like, is there something current going on that's going to help you get out of this and into something different?
And I think also utilizing astrology to understand some of your natural strengths.
Totally.
Like, you know,
Absolutely.
like a Virgo is so extraordinarily analytical. I think their brains are like the microcomputer of the zodiac. I mean, they can take a look at a project that's so complex and parse it down and be like, this is the optimal way to do it. Like, that is definitely a problem solver. Whereas, you know, somebody that's all cardinal, they're going to get it started, but then they're not in it for the long haul. They're going to like pass it off to somebody else. So or like, you know, Capricornian worker bee that's just like, I'm just going to like work my little heart out because I feel so comfortable being productive. Like those types of insights are really informative to what types of roles are best suited for somebody.
Yeah. We always, if someone's coming in with like a career thing, we're always going to look at like, what are the overall aptitudes? If someone's coming in with a relationship thing, it's really fun to look at like, well, what kind of relationship do you just want? You know, like forget the people, like what kind of relationship is going to be great for you, you know? And sometimes that really turns on a light bulb for people where they're like, keep trying to make this relationship work, keep trying to make it work. And it's like, do you guys like stay up all night talking because you're like best friends? Because that's what you really want in a relationship. And it's like, oh no, I do really want that. Oh God. You know, it doesn't mean they're going to go run and break up, but there's something there then that's like, either do I create this or do I really need it? Maybe I can let it go. You know, like it's eye-opening, I guess, is a great way to think about it.
Interesting. Yeah, because especially with relationships, so many people are like, I guess initial insecurities with all the dating apps and this and that. It's like you're sitting there and you're like, does this person like me? Does this person like me? Does this person like me? But like, what are the traits I'm looking for in a partner? And are they well suited for me? So I love that there's certain cultures that actually utilize astrology, like the Indian culture. They utilize astrology in matchmaking, and they look at charts and synastry and they just say like, you're well suited, or like these are challenges, or it's just not going to be a good fit at all, because there's some inherent like conflicts there. So I just think it's kind of like what's your love language, or understanding your type. The more you understand about different astrological traits that different people possess, this is the Libra in me, because Libra's all about like us plus another, right? Interpersonal communication. So I wish everybody would glean these types of relationship or interpersonal insights to be able to know everybody can get along. It's just once you understand where the other person's coming from, you can understand each other better.
Yeah,
right?
It's really helpful. It's helpful for parents understanding their kids, you know, for adult children understanding their parents.
True.
You know, relationships, absolutely. Bosses, and I'm with you 100%. Yeah.
Totally. So this is really cool. We asked Sandy to sign book plates, and we've put them into all of the products as well as her brand new deck. So, well, of course I grabbed this before my staff could put it in, but we have book plates signed. So everybody that purchases her books and the deck through Amityville Apothecary will get a signed copy of her products. And I'm just so thrilled getting to know you better. I know that we're going to get cut off, so I don't want it to be like that weird.
Do you want me to do a little reading for you though?
I'm not going to say no. See, it's so funny because Dina doesn't normally say yes. Like she normally doesn't want people to tap in, but like I'm like, oh yeah.
And you're a Sag rising and she's a Capricorn rising. That checks out 100%.
I'm not going to say no.
You're like, whatever. Like, let's just, you know.
Caution the wind. Yeah, sure.
And Capricorn rising is going to be like, let's step by step here. Let's be practical and a little more on the conservative side with that.
Totally.
Okay, cool. What's your last name?
DC,
Okay,
Deacy.
okay.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything that you want to know, or is it more just like a general kind of thing, or?
Just the highest and greatest good.
Okay. Okay. It's a lot of cards, but we won't have time for a lot of cards. But I just kind of wanted to see the full, the full spread.
I understand.
Wow, I keep pulling Aquarius cards all the time. So there's a core card here,
Okay.
which is the Aquarius emotion card,
Mm.
which is inspiration, really what we were talking about earlier, or indifference. And so those are the two kind of emotional pulls. And I don't know which one, is if one is maybe more than the other for you right now.
Okay.
You don't have to talk a lot because we're on like a public
Mm-hmm.
live, but I could just kind of like muse,
Sure.
like if you're in like this really inspired moment, there's like a sense of like being lifted up and kind of like being almost like free of some of the mechanics of what's going on,
Yeah.
or some of the pull of like the actual earth responsibilities, and being like, let's be up here where anything could happen, like
Yeah.
beyond kind of like defying the elements, the like defying gravity, defying it all, and like I'm just like inspired, so let's just try
Mm.
things.
I love that.
If you're feeling the indifference, it might be like, I'm not feeling that, like I'm feeling cut off, I'm feeling kind of like separate from where I usually get that well of inspiration, and I'm kind of like outside of it, and I'm not sure if it's objectivity or it's just like getting through the day, or if it's just like, things are just running. So I don't know which it is for you, or if it's both kind of.
Coming out of the ladder, like
Okay.
more inspired. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Mhm.
so that's cool. So it's like, okay, you can
Yeah.
see, we're starting to get lifted up.
Totally.
The figure in this card is levitating above a mountain. So there's
Mm.
this kind of sense of just like, whoa, I'm getting like lifted up and
I
out.
love that.
And it's kind of, I'm being taken out of that. Internally, this card is Uranus, another Aquarius theme of change. So
Yeah.
just we're getting shocked now. Now things are starting to bubble, and
Yeah.
we just have to shift. I have to move. I have to do this differently. I have to dance. I have to be over here, be over
Yeah.
there. This card is the symbol is tumbling down a hill. So we're just moving the
Go
earth.
with it.
Yeah, go with it. The external stuff that's going on is the identity card, the ascendant. So this is a star rises in the east. So here again, this theme is like,
Yeah.
suddenly there's something new being born. It's you.
I
It is
love
kind of
that.
happening. You are coming out of this, but this is the external card, which means like, while that's happening, kind of maybe it's kind of happening to you in a way. Like maybe there are other forces that are activated. They're like, no, we're going to do this. We're going to go here.
Mm.
We're going to go there. Maybe it's like, okay, I'm like, I'm me. I'm me in all of this.
I
Very
love
Libran
that.
in a way, where like other people show you, or like things bring you to something, and then you're like, yes, this is me. Um, the homework card of like what to work
Mhm.
on is the Mars assertiveness card.
Okay.
So that is kind of just going for the goals, making the earth shake under your feet, just like getting in the action side of
Sure.
things. Just really doing it and getting fired up, getting motivated.
Oh, I love that.
And
You-
then what a great reading. The
Yeah.
outcome, this is kind of like the where you're going or where you're growing card.
Okay.
So like kind of the outcome is the Capricorn leadership card, the Capricorn material card. So it's like all of that, you kind of coming out of the indifference, kind of having all the change happens, finding yourself getting active, getting activated, is leading to being a leader, taking the lead.
I love that.
Charging forward. That's great. What a nice reading.
What a
So nice.
fantastic reading. It totally
Yeah.
hit. It
Cool.
totally
I
hit.
love
Thank
it.
you.
Great. So
Very,
so
very
beautiful.
beautiful.
Thank you.
I know that Instagram is going to kick you up and say, go to
Yeah.
bed
Yeah.
now. That's enough
Sometimes
screen time.
these rules, I mean, I could stay on, but like, I like that it's going to be right at 8 o'clock. So it kind of feels like a good external boundary, external
Perfect.
limitation.
I have absolutely loved spending this past hour getting to know
Yeah.
you. Thank you for
Yeah, this
spending
was
time with
so
us.
fun. I love getting to know you. Thank you for letting me do a reading for you. And thank you for your
Yeah,
support. It's really, really such a gift to know you guys are excited about these projects. I'm super excited. Yeah, thank
absolutely. So,
you.
guys, these are live on our site. So, if you want to purchase these wonderful books, they make great gifts for yourself or others. And then this deck is just wonderful. So, what's in your stars? Astrology Deck, $16.99. You will get signed copies from Sandy, and Sandy, stay in touch with us. We'd love to have you come visit
Oh,
us.
thank you so much.
Thank
I'll
you.
definitely be there. Thank you so
Great
much.
job. Congrats on the launch.
Thank you.
Take
Thanks a
care.
lot.
Good
Okay,
night,
you too.
everyone.
Good
Thanks.
night.
Okay, bye.
Bye.